The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, soaking through James's thin jacket as he huddled on the cold church bench. "You're no son of mine." His father's voice echoed in his skull. The last words spat like venom before they drove off into the night, taillights fading like a dying prayer. In the dim glow of the steeple's cross, James realized he was utterly, irrevocably alone, until a pair of headlights pierced the storm, not fleeing, but coming for him. James wiped the water from his eyes, but it was no use. The downpour blurred everything into a watercolor of regret. The First Baptist Church of Willow Creek, Ohio, loomed behind him like a silent sentinel, its white-clabbered siding slick and unforgiving under the relentless assault from the heavens. It was the same church where he'd sung hymns as a kid, where his mother had once pinned a corsage to his Sunday best for Easter service. Now it was his exile's throne, a bench etched with the initials of lovers long forgotten, or maybe just pranksters from the local high school. He was 18, fresh out of his senior year, with a backpack stuffed with nothing but a change of clothes, his dog-eared copy of The Catcher in the Rye, and a crumpled acceptance letter to Ohio State. Dreams of studying literature, of escaping the suffocating grip of small-town piety, they all felt like cruel jokes now. His parents had found the texts on his phone. Not just any texts, but ones to a boy from the debate team, words that tumbled out in the dead of night. "I can't stop thinking about your smile. What if we ran away?" Innocent, desperate confessions that shattered their world. "You're going to hell, James," his mother had whispered, her Bible clutched like a shield as tears carved rivers down her face. But it was his father who delivered the verdict, the deacon of the congregation, voice booming with the authority of sermons he'd preached for decades. "We can't harbor sin under our roof. The Lord tests us, and this is your test. Repent or find your own path." They'd bundled him into the car under the guise of a prayer vigil, only to unload him here on sacred ground, like an offering to appease the Almighty. James pulled his knees to his chest, the chill seeping into his bones. The storm raged on, thunder cracking like the whip of divine wrath. He thought of his little sister, Ellie, peeking from the back seat with wide, frightened eyes. Would she remember him? Or would the church youth group rewrite his story into a cautionary tale? Beware the devil's whisper in a boy's heart. Headlights sliced through the veil of rain, slow and deliberate, not the hurried escape of his parents' truck. A beat-up Ford sedan pulled into the gravel lot, its wipers slapping rhythmically against the torrent. The door creaked open, and out stepped a woman who looked like she'd been carved from the same sturdy oak as the church pews. Mid-40s, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail. She unfurled a massive black umbrella, the kind you saw at funerals, and trudged toward him, her rubber boots splashing through puddles. "Hey there, kid," she called over the roar, her voice carrying the flat vowels of the Midwest, warm as fresh cornbread despite the weather. "You look like a drowned rat. Mind if I join the pity party?" James blinked up at her, water streaming down his face. Who was she? Some church busybody sent to save his soul with tracts and tough love? He wanted to snap, to tell her to leave him to rot, but his throat tightened, words dissolving into the rain. She didn't wait for an invitation. Plopping down beside him, she angled the umbrella to shield them both, though it did little against the wind-whipped spray. Up close, he saw the lines etched around her eyes. Laugh lines, mostly, but with shadows of something heavier. Her coat smelled of cigarette smoke and vanilla, a comforting oddity. "Name's Marlene," she said, extending a calloused hand. "I run the diner down on Main. Saw the truck peel out like the devil was on its tail. Figured whoever they left behind might need a hot coffee and a listening ear." He stared at her hand, then took it, his own fingers icy and trembling. "James," he managed, voice barely above the storm. They know. About me." Marlene nodded slowly, no judgment in her eyes, just a quiet understanding that made his chest ache. "Parents can be a handful when faith gets tangled up in fear. Mine tried to pray the queer out of my brother once. Didn't take. He's thriving in San Francisco now, married to a fella who bakes the best sourdough this side of the Rockies." James's breath hitched. Queer. The word hung there, unashamed, like it belonged. No one in Willow Creek said it aloud, not without whispers chasing you like hellhounds. They left me here, said I wasn't their son anymore. Bullshit, Marlene said matter-of-factly, squeezing his hand. You're somebody's son. Always will be. And if they're too blind to see that, well, we'll find you a family that does. She stood, tugging him up with surprising strength. Come on. My shift ended an hour ago, but the diner's got a back booth that's drier than this bench. Pancakes on me. He followed her to the car, numb and disbelieving. The Ford's interior was a time capsule, faded upholstery. A dashboard Jesus bobblehead nodding approval, country radio crooning about lost love. As they drove through the rain-slicked streets, past the neon sign of Willow Creek Diner flickering like a beacon, James felt the first crack in his armor. Maybe exile wasn't the end. Maybe it was just the beginning. The diner was a relic from the 50s, all chrome stools and checkered floors. The kind of place where locals nursed coffee from dawn till dusk. At this hour, it was empty save for the night cook flipping burgers in the back. Marlene led James to the booth by the window, where rain traced silver paths down the glass. She poured 2 mugs of joe from a pot that had been brewing since supper, black and steaming. Start from the square one if you want, she said, sliding in across from him. Or don't, but eat. A plate of pancakes materialized, golden and fluffy, drowned in syrup that stuck to his fingers like sticky hope. He poked at them, appetite warring with the knot in his gut. It's stupid. I kissed a guy at prom. Behind the gym. Someone saw. By Monday, the whole town knew. My dad. He's the deacon. It was like I shamed the family, the church, God himself. Marlene sipped her coffee, listening without interruption. When he trailed off, voice cracking, she leaned forward. James, listen to me. God's bigger than any small-minded sermon. And love? That's the holiest thing there is, no matter who it's for. Your folks are scared of losing their version of heaven. But you're brave as hell for being you. Tears mixed with the syrup on his plate. He hadn't cried in front of anyone since he was 10. But here, in this fluorescent-lit sanctuary, the dam broke. Marlene didn't hug him, didn't crowd him, but she pushed a napkin his way and let the silence stretch, companionable and kind. By the time the rain tapered to a drizzle, James had spilled it all. The stolen glances in youth group, the ache of hiding, the terror of coming out. Marlene shared bits of her own story. Widowed young, raising a daughter alone, watching her brother flee judgment only to flourish. Family ain't always blood, she said. Sometimes it's the folks who stick around when the storm hits. She drove him to her place after. A cozy bungalow on the edge of town with a wraparound porch and a swing that creaked in the wind. Her daughter, Becca, was off at college in Columbus, so the spare room became his. A quilted haven with posters of old Hollywood stars, Cary Grant winking from the wall like a co-conspirator. That first night, James lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. The church bench felt like a lifetime ago, but the hurt lingered, a bruise on his soul. Yet Marlene's words echoed, "You're somebody's son." For the first time, he wondered if that somebody could be him. Weeks blurred into a fragile routine. James waitressed mornings at the diner, his lanky frame filling out with Marlene's home-cooked meals. Meatloaf on Tuesdays, apple pie on Sundays. Afternoons, he pored over community college brochures, dreaming of literature classes where stories like his weren't sins but sonnets. Evenings, they sat on the porch, fireflies dancing like errant prayers, talking about everything and nothing. Marlene became the mother he'd lost, fierce and unflinching. "You're not broken, James," she'd say over chess games where she let him win half the time. "You're blooming, and damn if that ain't the most beautiful thing." But Willow Creek wasn't San Francisco. Whispers followed him like shadows. The grocery clerk's averted eyes. The pastor's pointed sermon on Sodom during Sunday service. His parents hadn't called, not once. Ellie snuck notes via the mail slot at the diner. "Miss you. Praying for you." Each one twisted the knife deeper. Then came John. It was a crisp October Saturday. leaves carpeting the town square in fire-red glory. James was hauling crates of pumpkins for the fall festival, sweat beading on his brow under the autumn sun. The booth next to theirs sold handmade leather goods, wallets, belts, journals bound in supple hides. Behind the table stood a guy about his age, broad-shouldered and easy-smiling, with tousled chestnut hair and eyes like polished oak. "Need a hand?" the guy called, loping over with the grace of someone who'd played varsity baseball. He grabbed a crate before James could protest, muscles flexing under a faded flannel shirt. "Thanks," James muttered, cheeks warming. Up close, the guy smelled of cedar and fresh earth, a scent that hit like a memory of better days. "John Harlan," he said, setting the crate down and wiping his hands on his jeans. "Artist, apparently. Or at least that's what my mom calls it when I burn leather instead of books." James laughed, surprising himself. James Whitaker, pumpkin hauler extraordinaire. They fell into easy chatter. John from Cincinnati, road-tripping through Ohio on a whim, selling crafts to fund the next leg. He had a sketchbook tucked in his apron, quick lines capturing the festival's chaos. Kids with cotton candy mustaches, old-timers whittling sticks. By noon, John had wandered over with 2 steaming cider cups. "To new faces in old towns," he toasted, clinking mugs. James clinked back, heart stuttering. John's gaze lingered, not prying, but seeing, really seeing. It was electric, dangerous, the kind of spark that could ignite or incinerate. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in bruised purples, John packed up his stall. "Hey, if you're not busy tomorrow, there's this trail up by the river. Waterfall's killer this time of year. Could use a guide who knows the backroads." James hesitated, the ghost of his parents struck in his mind. But Marlene's voice cut through. "Love's the holiest thing." "Yeah," he said, grinning. "I'd like that." That night, on the porch swing, James confessed to Marlene over chamomile tea. She chuckled, deep and knowing. "John, huh? Saw him eyeing you like a fresh-baked pie. Go easy on yourself, kid. Hearts heal when you let 'em beat." The next day dawned golden, frost-kissed. John picked him up in a rusty Jeep, top down despite the chill, wind whipping their hair as they bumped along dirt roads. The trail wound through hardwood forests, leaves crunching underfoot like whispered secrets. John talked freely. His art school dropout story, the queer underground scene in the city, the ache of coming out to a family that toasted with indifference rather than outrage. "You're lucky," James said, half joking, as they reached the waterfall's roar. Mist rose like steam from a hidden world, rocks slick and ancient. John turned, water droplets catching in his lashes. "Nah, sounds like you've got Marlene. That's luck. Real family sees the soul, not the label." They sat on a mossy log, shoulders brushing, the air thick with unspoken possibility. When John's hand found his, tentative and warm, James didn't pull away. Their first kiss was tentative, tasting of cider and courage, the cascade drowning out the world's noise. For the first time since the rain-soaked bench, James felt whole. Fall deepened, turning Willow Creek into a postcard of amber and rust. James and John's worlds intertwined like vines on an old trellis, slow, steady, inevitable. Mornings started with texts. "Coffee run?" from John, who crashed at a local B&B while scouting inspiration. Afternoons bled into stolen hours. Sketching sessions in the diner basement, where James posed with a broom like a reluctant model, laughing as John's pencil captured the curve of his jaw, the mischief in his eyes. "You're my muse," John murmured one day, charcoal smudging his fingers as he worked. They were sprawled on a threadbare rug, sunlight slanting through dusty windows. James's heart flipped at the word muse, like he was poetry, not pariah. Evenings belonged to the town square, bundled in scarves against the bite, sharing fries from a food truck while John spun tales of city nights. Drag shows and dive bars, pride parades that shut down streets with rainbows and rebellion. "You'd love it," John said, his arms slung casual around James's shoulders. "No hiding, just you loud and proud." James leaned into him, the warmth chasing away the chill. "Someday, When I'm done proving I can make it here first. Marlene watched it all with a proprietor's pride, slipping extra pie slices their way and winking when John called her chief. That boy's got roots, she told James one night, washing dishes while he dried. But don't let him clip your wings. Love should lift, not anchor. James nodded, but doubt nibbled at the edges. John was a comet, bright, fleeting, while he was still mending fences in a town that eyed him sideways. Still, the kisses deepened, hands exploring in the Jeep's back seat under starlit skies, breaths mingling like prayers answered. Thanksgiving loomed, a specter of turkey and tension. Marlene insisted on hosting, her bungalow aglow with candles and the scent of sage stuffing. No one's alone on this day, she declared, enlisting John for pie duty. Becca drove in from college, a whirlwind of dyed hair and graphic tees, hugging James like a long-lost brother. Mom says you're family now. Spill. What's the deal with the hot artist? Over pumpkin pie, laughter flowed freer than the wine. John recounted a disastrous city Thanksgiving, turkey explosion in his tiny apartment, drawing belly laughs from Becca. James caught Marlene's eye across the table, her smile soft. See, this is what sons look like. But the holiday's warmth cracked under reality's boot. A week later, as snow dusted the rooftops, James's phone buzzed with a number he hadn't seen in months. Dad. His stomach plummeted. We need to talk. Church. Sunday after service. The text was curt, no love or son. James's hands shook as he showed Marlene. She set down her coffee, face hardening. Go if you want closure. But remember, you don't owe them your soul. Sunday dawned brittle, the church lot packed with parishioners in wool coats. James slipped in late, John waiting in the Jeep a block away. Your call, babe. I'm here. The service dragged, the pastor's voice droning on forgiveness, irony thick as incense. When it ended, James lingered in the vestibule, heart hammering. His parents emerged from the nave, arm in arm, faces gaunt. His father, once a mountain of a man, seemed shrunken. His mother dabbed at eyes red-rimmed. James, she breathed, reaching out, then faltering. Dad. Mom. The words tasted like ash. His father cleared his throat, glancing at the milling crowd. We've prayed. A lot. The elders. They suggested counseling, reparative therapy. This helped others. The air sucked from the room. James's vision tunneled. You mean, fix me? Like I'm a car with a busted engine. Not fix. His mother interjected, voice pleading. Save. For your eternal soul. And ours. The church. Forget the church. James's whisper shout drew stares. You threw me away. On a bench in the rain. Like trash. His father's jaw tightened. We acted in faith. Tough love. But God's mercy is boundless. Come home. Try. Home. The word dangled like a noose. James thought of Ellie's notes, the empty chair at Marlene's table. I have a home, and love that doesn't come with conditions. He turned on his heel, storming out into the gray light. The Jeep's door slammed behind him, John's arms enveloping before the engine even turned. What happened? Same old script, James choked, tears hot. Repent or rot. John drove them to the river, the waterfall frozen in lacy veils. They built a fire from driftwood, huddling close as flames danced. You're enough, John whispered, lips brushing his temple. More than enough. That night, tangled in sheets at Marlene's, John staying over for the first time with her blessing, James let go. Their bodies moved like a symphony, urgent and tender. John's hands mapping scars both seen and unseen. In the afterglow, sweat slick and spent, John traced patterns on James's chest. I could stay, you know, skip the road, set up shop here. James's pulse quickened. You'd do that? For you? Yeah. John's eyes held galaxies, promises. But promises James knew were fragile as frost. Winter clamped down, blanketing Willow Creek in hush. John's stall became permanent at the weekly market, leather goods flying off tables, wallets etched with subtle rainbows for the brave locals. They carved out a life, movie nights at the one-screen theater, sledding hills with Becca on holiday break, midnight drives blasting Springsteen. James enrolled at community college, intro to lit his first class. Professor Hale, a wiry vet with a penchant for Whitman, pulled him aside after the second week. Your essay on isolation in Holden raw. You write like you've lived it. I have, James admitted, and for once it felt like armor, not shame. John's art evolved too, inspired by their story. Journals bound in denim patches, covers inked with quotes from Auden. One night, over takeout Chinese in the diner after close, he unveiled a commission. A leather-bound album for Marlene, pages for recipes and photos. For the family that chose us, he said. Marlene teared up, pulling them both into a bear hug. You two are trouble. Good trouble. But cracks spiderwebbed beneath the idol. John's phone buzzed more. Texts from city friends. Miss you at the gallery opening. When you coming back? He brushed them off. But James saw the wanderlust in his sketches. Horizons always calling. Then betrayal slithered in unannounced. It started with a letter, slipped under the diner door. James found it during morning prep, envelope unmarked but heavy with intent. Inside photos, him and John kissing by the river. Grainy, zoomed-in shots from across the water, time-stamped weeks back. A note in block print, repent, sinner, or the whole town sees. His blood iced. Who? A church deacon with a grudge? A nosy neighbor playing holy vigilante? He showed Marlene first, her face thunderous. Cowards hide behind paper. We'll burn it. But James wanted John to know, to face it together. He waited till evening, the bungalow quiet save for the tick of the grandfather clock. John was at the kitchen table, sketching a new design, when James slid the envelope across. John's face drained of color as he flipped through. Jesus, who the fuck? I don't know, but it's out there now. Someone's watching. John slammed the table, chair scraping back. This town's poison. We should leave. Now. Head to the city, start fresh. James recoiled. Leave? Marlene, the college, everything I've built. You built it on sand, James. One wrong look and they crucify you. John's voice cracked, fear bleeding through anger. I can't lose you to this hate. The words stung, paternal almost, like his father's edicts. Lose me? Or lose your escape route? John flinched. What? No, that's not. You're always half gone. James pressed, hurt erupting. Texts from friends, sketches of skylines. This isn't home for you. Admit it. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. John's eyes glistened. I love you. But yeah, the road pulls. I thought, maybe we could chase it together. James's laugh was bitter. Together? Or with me tagging along like baggage? The fight escalated. Words flying like shrapnel. Accusations of clinging, of fleeing. John stormed out into the snow, Jeep roaring to life. James collapsed on the couch, sobs racking him. Marlene found him there at dawn, brewing tea with steady hands. Storms pass, kid. But you gotta decide what harbor you want. John returned 2 days later, contrite, flowers wilting in the cold. I'm sorry. Panicked. Let's talk to the cops. Face this. They did. Sheriff Mills, a doughy man with a mustache like a broom bristle, took the report with a sigh. Kids these days will poke around. But folks here, privacy's sacred. No arrests, no leads. The photos stopped, but the chill lingered. Trust frayed, dates turning tentative, touches hesitant. James threw himself into school, acing midterms on Dickinson's dashes and despair. John sold out his stock, eyes distant. Spring thawed the ground but not their rift. One April evening, as dogwoods bloomed pink against the sky, John sat James down on the porch swing. I got an offer. Gallery in Cincinnati wants my work. Show next month. James's throat closed. Congrats. Come with me. John's plea was raw, hand gripping his. We build there. No watchers, no whispers. The offer hung, tempting. But Willow Creek had Marlene's laugh, Ellie's secret visits, his sister sneaking pie under the table, whispering, "Dad, sorry, but scared. It had roots, however thorny." "I can't," James whispered. "Not yet." John's face crumpled. "Then I have to go alone. For my art. For us to make space." The kiss goodbye was salt and sorrow. John's Jeep vanishing down the lane like his parents' truck. James watched till taillights blurred, chest hollow. Alone again, but not broken. Summer scorched Willow Creek, humidity thick as unspoken grief. James moved through days on autopilot, shifts at the diner blurring into study sessions. Marlene's concerned glances met with tight smiles. "He'll be back," she'd say, but her voice held the realism of someone who'd buried dreams before. John's texts came sporadic, galleries buzzing. "Miss your laugh." James replied in kind, walls rebuilding brick by emoji. The betrayal of the photos lingered like a bad aftertaste, but worse was the fear that love, even pure, couldn't outrun the pull of freedom. Ellie became his anchor. She started visiting openly, biking over after school with homework and hard-eyed stories about crushes. "You're my hero, Jay," she'd say, peanut butter on her chin. "For being brave." One sweltering afternoon, she dropped the bomb. "Dad wants to see you. Alone. At the park." James's fork paused midair, pie crumb tumbling. "Why now?" "Dunno. Mom's been crying. Church stuff, I guess." Her eyes pleaded. "Please? For me." He went, against Marlene's gruff, "Don't let 'em reel you in." The park was a lazy sprawl of picnic tables and duck ponds, families grilling under the haze. His father sat on a bench by the water, fishing pole idle, looking every year of his 58. "James." No embrace, just a nod. "Sit." He did, rigid as the bench slats. Ducks quacked mockery. "I've been reading." His father started, voice gravelly. "Not the Bible. Books. About folks like you." "Gaze." The word landed awkward, clinical. James snorted. "Progress. Don't mock." Pause, rod twitching. "Pastor Hale, your prof's husband. He came by, shared his story. Was like you once. Hiding. Nearly lost his way." The name clicked. Professor Hale's easy grace in class, quoting Leaves of Grass with fervor. So, I was wrong. Throwing you out. It wasn't faith. It was fear. Of what neighbors thought. Of hellfire they preached." His father's eyes, blue as James's own, shimmered. "Can you forgive a foolish old man?" The question hung heavy as heat. James thought of the bench, the rain's bite, of Ellie's notes, his mother's tears. "Forgiveness isn't a switch, Dad. Work." "I know." The pole dipped, a fish nibbling. "But Ellie's got your smile. And your mom. She prays for two now. You and us." They sat in silence, ducks paddling circles. When James stood, his father rose too, hand out. Not for a shake. A hug, awkward and bone-crushing. "Come for dinner. Sometime." "Maybe," James said, and meant it. The reconciliation didn't erase scars, but it softened edges. Dinners started tentative. Pot roast and small talk, Ellie chattering bridge. His mother touched his arm once, fleeting as a butterfly. "We love you, son. No qualifiers." College ramped up, James diving into poetry slams at the campus cafe, voice steady reciting Ocean Vuong. "What were you before you met him?" Audiences snapped approval. Queer kids clustering after. "Your words. They get it." Marlene beamed from the front row one night, John absent but his influence woven in. "Tell your truth," loud. Speaking of John, summer waned, his show a hit per social media. Leather pieces evoking queer Americana, sold to collectors. A video call bridged miles. John's face pixelated but alight. "Come see. Openings in 2 weeks." James hesitated, heart a tug of war. "Exams. After then. Please." He went. Cincinnati thrummed electric, streets alive with buskers and breweries. The gallery was a converted warehouse, exposed brick and track lights. John's work spotlit like altars. A belt buckle etched with intertwined hands, a journal cover of a bench in rain. Their bench. John spotted him across the crowd, weaving through with champagne flutes. You came. Wouldn't miss it. Their hug lingered, bodies remembering. The afterparty spilled into a rooftop bar, city lights sprawling like promises. John pulled him aside, overlooking the Ohio River's gleam. I fucked up, James. Running. Thought space would clarify, but it just echoed you. James's pulse thrummed. I missed you too, but what now? Now? We try. Slow. You finish school here, I shuttle between. Build something real. The kiss reignited old fires, deeper now, tempered by time. They crashed at John's sublet, a loft cluttered with canvases and clay, bodies rediscovering rhythms, gasps echoing off high ceilings. Dawn found them tangled, John's whisper fierce, You're my home. Fall semester hit like a freight train, but James rode the rails high. John's visits dotted weekends, gallery runs turning to trail hikes, his Jeep parked in Marlene's drive like it belonged. Ellie adored him, dubbing him Uncle Sketchy. Even his parents warmed, his father buying a wallet, gruff, quality work, but harmony's fragile. Conflict brewed in whispers. Becca, home for break, cornered James over Coco. John's great, but he's got one foot out the door. Saw his phone, texts from some ex in the city. Flirty. James's stomach nodded. Probably nothing. Be careful, she said, sister's intuition sharp. Love's blind, but not stupid. Doubt festered. John's absences stretched. Client meeting, back Sunday. James buried it in essays, but paranoia gnawed. The photo's ghost, now John's secrets. Climax crashed mid-December, snow blanketing the town in deceptive peace. James drove to Cincinnati unannounced, craving surprise reunion. The loft door was ajar, laughter spilling out. John's, rich and unguarded, mingled with another's. He pushed in, heart hammering. John on the couch, arm around a guy, lean, tattooed, the ex from photos Becca described. Empty wine bottles, sketchpads strewn with intimate poses. The guy's hand on John's thigh, captured in loving detail. James? John bolted up, face ashen. The ex smirked, unfazed. Oh, the small-town boyfriend. Cute. Get out. John snapped at him, but damage bloomed red. James's voice was steel. How long? Not, it's nothing. He showed up, drunk, from the show. Old history. History you're sketching? Like I'm yesterday's news. The betrayal burned, hotter than parental rejection. Those photos. Was it you? Testing if I'd bolt. John recoiled. God, no. I love you. Love? Or convenience? James's laugh cracked. You left once. Don't make me beg you not to again. He fled into the blizzard, tires spinning on ice. John's calls chased him home, but James silenced them, curling on the porch swing till Marlene dragged him in. Cry it out, son. Then rise. Days blurred. Finals aced on autopilot, diner shifts mechanical. John arrived at dawn, snow-dusted, eyes haunted. Let me explain. No. James faced him in the kitchen, voice steady. You chose freedom over us. Again. It was a mistake. Weak moment. John's plea cracked. I came back every time. But you leave pieces behind. James's chest ached. I can't be your anchor if you're always sailing. John deflated, nodding. I get it, but this isn't goodbye forever. Promise. They parted with a hug, chaste and shattering. John's Jeep crunched away, city-bound. Winter gripped tight, mirroring James's heart. Ellie baked him cookies, shape of broken hearts, half joke, half truth. Marlene prescribed mending time. Porch sits with hot toddies, Whitman readings till words blurred to bomb. Spring crept in, tentative greens pushing through frost. James's poetry chapbook won a campus contest. Bench prayers, verses of rain and redemption. Readings drew crowds, his voice a bridge over chasms. One night, post-slam, a familiar face in the back. John? Leather jacket dusted with travel, sketchbook under arm. Not presuming, just there. After over-diner coffee, words flowed cautious. Saw your promo. Had to hear it. James nodded, guard up. Heard from Becca you sold out the winter show. Yeah, but it rings hollow without you in it. John's eyes searched. I'm staying put. Rented a studio here. No more roads. Skepticism warred with want. Why now? Because I was the betrayer. Not the town, not your folks, me. Chasing shadows when light was here. He slid a package across. A leather journal, cover embossed with a bench and umbrella. Inside, sketches, their story from rain to river, ending in open pages. For whatever comes next, together or not. James traced the lines, tears pricking. It hurts, John. Trust's a fragile fucker. I know. I'll earn it. Day by day. They started their coffee dates turning to walks, touches relearning trust. No rush, no rings. Just two boys, scarred and stubborn, building on cracked ground. Summer hummed back, cicadas chorusing approval as James and John's tentative dance evolved. No grand gestures, just the quiet accrual of moments. John manning a permanent booth at the farmer's market, James reading drafts aloud while he stitched. Laughter returned, edged with caution, but genuine. John's at James's terrible puns. James's at John's exaggerated city horror stories. Marlene played referee and cheerleader. Her bungalow the neutral ground for game nights with Becca and Ellie. Look at you two, she teased, dealing cards. Like an old married couple, minus the nagging. Ellie's visits deepened the weave. She confessed her own crush, a girl from art class, over ice cream cones, sticky chins mirroring confessions. Like you and John, she said. Scary, but sparkly. James hugged her fierce. Sparkly's the goal, squirt. His parents' thaw accelerated too. Dinners became weekly, awkward silences filling with questions. How's school? From Mom. That wallet's holding up, from Dad. One night, post-roast, his father pulled him aside. John seems solid. Treat him right. James blinked. You. Approve. Not my place. But love's love. Learned that the hard way. A clap on the shoulder, gruff affection. College wrapped his associates in a ceremony under blue skies, cap and gown billowing like wings. John hooped loudest from the bleachers, bouquet of wildflowers in hand, daisies and lavender. For new beginnings, Marlene snapped photos, Becca whooping beside her. Even his parents attended, clapping polite from the back, Ellie waving a sign. Go Jay! After, at the diner bash, streamers and Marlene's famous deviled eggs. John pulled him into the storeroom, door clicking shut. Proud of you, Muse. The kiss was fire reignited, hands roaming with months-honed hunger. Against crates of syrup, they rediscovered urgency, gasps muffled in collars. Forever. John breathed after, foreheads pressed. Let's aim for always, James replied, grinning. Fall brought winds of change. James transferred to Ohio State, dorm-bound in Columbus, city lights beckoning, Willow Creek a hour's drive. John followed, studio space in a short north warehouse, galleries clamoring. Their first apartment was a shoebox walk-up, creaky floors and a fire escape for stargazing. But it was theirs. Walls papered in sketches, shelves bowed with books. City life dazzled. Pride flags fluttering year-round, coffee shops with rainbow mugs, John's hand in his on High Street without stairs. James majored in creative writing, seminars buzzing with voices like his, queer, raw, resonant. Nights, they cooked pasta disasters, laughing over wine. Mornings, tangled limbs and lazy kisses. But conflict simmered, insidious. John's star rose, solo exhibit in Chicago, features in indie mags. It's huge, he'd say, packing bags. 2 nights, tops. James nodded, but resentment brewed. While I'm buried in thesis. John's eyes would soften. Come next time. Road trip. He did once windy miles, motel romps, but exhaustion crept. Texts piled. Miss you. Safe travels. Replies delayed. Killed it? Betrayal's echo whispered. He's leaving again. Winter hit Columbus hard. Snowdrifts swallowing sidewalks. James's thesis on queer narratives in American lit consumed him, Interviews with folks like Marlene, pages thick with bench-borne resolve. John supported, fetching takeout during all-nighters, but distance yawned. The blow landed Valentine's, city slick with ice. James planned simple. Picnic in the park, if weather held. Poetry reading at a cozy bar. John promised early return from a networking gig in Cleveland. By dusk, no John. Texts. Running late. Traffic. Then, stuck overnight. Sorry. James paced the apartment, hurt festering to fury. When the door finally creaked at midnight, John, disheveled, smelling of bar smoke. James unloaded. Again? I cleared my night, wrote this. He thrust a poem, creased and tear-stained. You chase horizons, leave me maps of maybes. John winced. Babe, it was business. Dinner ran long. Business or bourbon with backers? James's voice rose. I saw the Insta you arm around that curator, laughing like I'm the punchline. Jealousy's green glint flared in John's eyes. It's networking. You think I'd... After everything? After the ex? The sketches? Yeah, I think. The words poisoned, dredging old wounds. Maybe you're right. Small-town boys too clingy for your orbit. John's face shuddered. Don't twist this. You're the one building walls, doubting every mile. The fight raged till neighbors banged ceilings, ending in silence. John crashed on the couch. James in bed, sobs soaking pillows. Dawn brought fragile truce. Over burnt toast, John reached across. I hate this. Us. Fracturing. Me too. James sighed. But trust's threadbare. We patch or part. John nodded. Fierce. Patch. Therapy, maybe? I've got issues, commitment phobia. Dad's ghost. James squeezed his hand. Together, then. They dove in, queer-affirming counselor in the arts district, sessions unpacking baggage. John's nomadic youth, James's abandonment scars. Words unearthed. I fear you'll wake up and choose the road, James admitted. And I fear you'll resent my dreams, John countered. Progress was messy. Missed calls sparking spats. Make-up sex mending rifts, but roots deepened. Spring bloomed with John's proposal, not ring but ritual. On the fire escape, under April stars, a leather cord necklace etched sun, not sin. My vow, you're my chosen. James fastened it, throat tight. And you're my horizon. Graduation loomed, thesis defended with standing ovation. Hail in the front row, nodding pride. Job offers trickled. Adjunct teaching gig at State, freelance editing. John landed a residency in New York. 6 months. We visit weekends. Panic flickered, but therapy's tools steadied. Boundaries, babe. We videodate, plan escapes. The send-off was tear-streaked, airport kiss lingering. 6 months, James echoed. Then us. New York dazzled John, galleries gushing, collabs with queer icons. Visits were oases. James on trains, crashing in lofts, city pulse syncing their heartbeats. But distance tested. A canceled flight sparking doubt. A flirty email from John's agent unearthed in a drawer. Innocent, but sting sharp. Climax brewed in July heat. James flying east for a surprise weekend. He arrived to silence, loft empty. Note. Emergency collab in Brooklyn. Back by 8. Love you. 8 became 10. 10 midnight. Worry turned wrath. James paced, calling unanswered. At 2 a.m., door swung. John buzzed, with the agent, tall, charming, hand lingering on John's back. James! John's slurring joy curdled to guilt. The agent's smirk. The boyfriend. Charming. James's vision read. Out. Now. Door slammed. Accusations flew. Partying with him? Again? It was work. John protested. He crashed. Liar. James flung the email printout. Flirt or fire? John paled. I ended it. Before you. Before or after the sketches? Betrayal crested, wave crashing. You're poison, John. Every time I trust, you twist. John crumpled. I love you. Flaws and all. Not enough. James grabbed his bag. storming into dawn's glare. Subway to airport, tears anonymous in the crowd. Back in Columbus, Marlene enveloped him at the gate. "Oh, kid." No questions, just soup and silence. John's voicemails piled. "I'm broken. Fix me?" James deleted, heart lead. Summer waned. James threw into work, teaching freshman Dickinson, their wide eyes bomb. Ellie visited, college-bound herself. "Hearts mend, Jay. Like yours did once." Autumn leaves fell like regrets. John's exhibit toured without him, burnout, he texted. "Coming home. For real." James met him at the diner, neutral ground. John, thinner, eyes hollow. "I quit the scene. Too hollow. You're my art now." Skepticism warred with ache. "Prove it." "I will." Winter wrapped Columbus in crystalline hush, a canvas for second chances. John sublet the loft, crashing on friends' couches till James relented. A trial run, couch in the apartment. Nights stretched awkward. Dinners shared but stilted, touches tentative as first snowflakes. Therapy doubled down, sessions raw as open veins. "I run because Dad did," John confessed, voice cracking. "Left us for a secretary. Love's a lie, I thought. Till you." James nodded, scars bared. "And I cling because they cut me loose. Fear abandonment's my shadow." Counselor Lee, a soft-spoken dyke with tattooed vines up her arms, guided. "Shadows shrink in light. Name them." Naming bred healing. Date nights intentional. Poetry readings where James performed, John sketching crowds. Hikes in Hocking Hills, hands linked over roots. Laughter crept back, genuine, laced with gratitude. Holidays healed fractures. Christmas at Marlene's. Tree twinkling. Ellie gifting John a caricature. Uncle Sketchy saves Christmas. His parents hosted New Year's. Tentative invite accepted. Awkward toasts. To family redefined, Dad said, clinking glasses. Mom slipped James a photo album, childhood snaps. Bench absent. Spring surged, vitality viral. James's first publication. Bench prayers in a lit journal. Reviews praising tender humanism. John illustrated the piece. Umbrella and bench, sun embraced. Their reading tour. Ohio towns, crowds hungry for hope. One night, post-reading in a Dayton bookstore. A fan approached. "Your story. My son's like James." "Thank you." John's arm tightened around James. "Ours now." Summer solstice marked pivot. John proposed proper. Knee in grass at the river waterfall, now lush and roaring. Not ring, but vow. "Marry me?" Not legal yet, but in hearts, forever. James, tears streaming. "Yes." Horizons together. Ceremony was DIY. Backyard at Marlene's, wildflowers and whiskey. Becca officiated. Ellie ringbearer with a grin. Parents attended. Dad's eyes misty. Proud son. John in leather vest etched vows. James in linen, necklace gleaming. Vows echoed. "I see you, sin or saint whole." Rings exchanged, simple bands engraved sun, not sin. Honeymoon. Road trip west, Route 66 echoes. Diner stops, motel neon, hands intertwined over maps. Grand Canyon rim, sunset bleeding gold. "This is us," John said. Vast, unbreakable. Back home, life layered. James adjuncting, novel brewing, queer odyssey from bench to belonging. John taught workshops, leather and lit, mentoring young artists. Ellie interned summers, wide-eyed at their gay glory. Years folded like well-worn pages. Willow Creek receded but rooted visits to Marlene, now Graham to their adopted stray cats. Parents softening to grandparents for Ellie's kids, James and John's practice via nieces. Conflict lingered, echoes not eradications. John's wanderlust sparking spats, James's insecurities flaring. But tools tempered, therapy check-ins, nightly gratitude shares. Your laugh grounded me today. Climax revisited in quiet crisis. John's diagnosis, mid-40s, testicular cancer, caught early but carving fear. Hospital waits, James's hand in his. Not alone. Remission rang bells. Scars new badges. You saw my weakness, John whispered post-chemo, bald and brave. Loved anyway. Always, James echoed. Aging graced them. Silver threading hair, lines laughter-etched. Retirement found them in a cabin by the river. Sketches on walls, manuscripts stacked. Grandkids, Ellie's brood, climbed trees, demanding Grandpa Jay's bench story. James spun it sanitized. Rain, rescue, rainbow's end. John illustrated, adding umbrellas eternal. One dusk, swing creaking on the porch. Echo of Marlene's. Long gone but spirit strong. John leaned head on James's shoulder. Best plot twist, us. James kissed his temple. Humanity's finest. Love wins. Stars wheeled overhead. Church steeple distant silhouette. No bench left behind. Just suns, seen and cherished. In Willow Creek's shadow, two men rocked into twilight. Story unfinished, eternally kind.